What's up guys, it's James with First Home Inspectors. The home in today's video is very problematic. Some of the key takeaways you'll have from this home are defects with the electrical panel, a crucial takeaway that involves the ceiling in the garage, a massive leak that's coming from the upstairs to the downstairs, an unusual issue with the windows, and defects with the shower, so stay tuned. So here we'll open this up. Some issues we're seeing here is that this door hasn't been sticking on very well. And so that's causing water to come in. All of these guys are a little water damaged, or just have water standing on them. And you can see if you look closely, they're right in there. I don't exactly want to touch it. There's rust. And so there's likely rust inside of this cavity, that dead front panel right there. Also, we should probably seal around that. We don't want water getting in where it shouldn't be. This creates more problems. Gas meter's fine, hose bib is fine. This tree is a little bit close, but I think we'll be okay. These palm trees don't sway too much where it's actually going to damage the roof of the home. So over here, we've got our irrigation control valves. Okay, so I've got my screwdriver, I'll pop that. And with the flashlight, you can see that we've got some water that's spilling from this thing somewhere. A lot of times when I see water in here, I'm not really too concerned, and that's water right there is what I'm pointing to. I'm not really too concerned. Oftentimes condensation builds up in here, but there isn't condensation building up on here, and there's only water down there, so that tells me that the issue is just, it's ongoing. We got shutoffs here. It's rusted. If you look closely, you can see that there's some schmutz right here. And that's the calcium buildup is a sign of a leak, and the salt, calcium deposits are getting left behind. This AC system is new. It's about 3 years old. The house is probably like 30. But the disconnect is not connected to the wall, so that's not good. A really fast thermal imaging scan, you and me together. We'll see if we can find anything. I think we're okay. You can see the heat coming off the water heater. That's fine. That's to be expected. We got a little heat coming off the light fixture. That's very common, no big deal. Check the walls out too, and if we see anything. Yeah, so we're good there. Get a little closer to this water heater, see if we can find anything wrong with it. Seismic straps are here. We got the TPR discharge running in a straight line out, straight line continually downward. The plumbing connections up there are looking fine. They're not calcified or anything. We've got a pretty good vent. I guess you could say there's a little damage here, but I'm not too concerned with it. We have a bollard here, so we can say pretty confidently a car didn't run up and hit this. At some point, it looks like the corner bead just got pulled away. So this corner bead got pulled off, wrecked that one over there. That's all I think that's really happening. So I don't get too concerned. One thing I typically write is when the garage is freshly painted like this is, it's often a sign that the seller's trying to hide something. For some reason, garages have a lot more water leaks than the other parts of the home, especially in the ceiling. I'm not sure why that happens, but it is a pattern I've seen very often. So if it is painted like that, it's a little concerning. And then one of the more important things to keep things interesting for you guys is this thing right here. We can see that we have a drywall crack. And this one looks a little bit worse than the ones I usually see. And there's a reason. Not only is it cracked, it is cracked and cold, which is generally a sign of a water leak, if you guys see that right there. My apologies for it being so dark in this video. It's nighttime in Vegas because we have daylight savings time and it's like 4 p.m. over here. We'll run into what's actually causing that in just a second. I found that really interesting, what ended up happening there. This kitchen's looking fine. We got water damage underneath here. It's not ideal. I have to recommend mold testing. This might actually have mold considering how bad it is and how old the home is. And then we'll take a look over there. We got some shut offs that are oxidated and calcified. And so that's pretty likely that those need to be replaced. Oftentimes, if they're calcified like that, they're just itching to burst. And then it'll cause extensive water damage once the water starts running freely out of those things. This area right here has drywall damage, but it's not cold. And so I can pretty confidently say it's not leaking. The fireplace is working just fine. Always good to see. These guys never really adjusted this drain stop. And so it's not even like, look at the bottom here. I'm gonna mess with it. Right, look at that thing. When I move this, it's not moving at all. It needs to be worked on. This thing might also actually just be clogged. It's a combination of two things where they might need to clear the drain, and there's a plug back there, you need to fix that. And they also need to adjust this drain stop because whatever mechanism holds these two things together just isn't working. The toilet should probably be sealed to the ground. I can tell you something interesting here. This is something I always like seeing, is that rust stain right back there in the center of your screen. That's usually a sign that the toilet is leaking water from the bolts that are sitting in this guy that attach the tank to the bolt. But in this one, they look completely fine, which lets me know they just replaced this toilet. Now run us over to where the leak that's right over there is coming from. It's coming from this laundry room. Here's a laundry room, and this is just the absolute goofiest behavior I've probably ever seen. This is leaking and it's ongoing, and they should have just fully turned it off. I don't want to mess with it, but there's a chance that this leak could just be rolling into there, right? Or rolling into there. And more than likely that a lot of that water is going to those two places. But with thermal imaging, this is always a good idea to buy thermal imaging if you decide to work with me, is that it feels dry. And I promise you, when I put my hand up against it, it feels dry. But you can see it's all cold. See that? We get that like ring at the bottom of it. Not good. Generally speaking, not good. So that's a sign that this is probably dripping onto the back of the drywall, getting it wet. We can't see it yet, but on the back of the wall it's there, and then it's running down to the ceiling below where we're seeing that other defect. Here's our plumbing distribution. We're looking fine. Nothing's really calcified. This house had a unique issue. I can't really even talk too much about it in the video because you guys won't be able to see it or feel it. It's really more of a sense of touch thing. In this house, they have like these vinyl windows going on, and I don't know if they're just cheap vinyl or something, but when I try to open and close them, they're like, they just feel brittle and kind of tight. They just don't feel good. So that's pretty problematic. Like, once plastic like that starts to get brittle, it then starts to crack. And if you have a window that's cracked, it's generally gonna leak water. So I find that to be very off-putting. Oh, here's an awesome defect. Actually, it's not doing it right now. Earlier, there was water that was splashing out, spraying out of that thing onto here. You can even see there's a couple water drops still from before. So that's still a little bit wet. That's an important defect to catch and write about, because if this is ongoing, it's gonna grow mold on that wall, and naturally no one wants that. Here, another issue is that it looks like they had some kind of big drywall repair here, or there was a leak, there was a bubble of paint, and then they pulled that bubble of paint off the wall and it created all this. All the torn drywall, paper, you can even see where the paint pulled away from the texture. I have a little bit of a leak here in the glass. That's not too bad. Just like, so water would fill up in this channel right here, then it would kind of roll up, right, and then spill out, but it would spill out onto here. Does that make sense? Water would fall into this trap, then it would kind of rise back up, fall back down. That's why we see that kind of beat up gasket looking there. You can even see it kind of leaking here in the past. But ultimately it falls back in this channel that we have, and it's not too bad. Not ideal, but not too bad. So if you're moving to the Las Vegas area and need a home inspector you can trust, be sure to reach out. My name is James with First Home Inspectors, and we would love to work with you.